Hi, I'm Paul. I play in Basement Torch Killings. I'm the lead guitarist and one half of the vocal duos, and I'm otherwise known as Tarquin. Basement Torch Killings began in 2007. I was visiting a friend of mine in Sweden where he was living at the time, and we went to a gig. We saw Nominion and Grave. The next day, rather than go sightseeing, we decided that we would create a band, just for fun, to write a song. So we wrote a song. It was called Fleet Seater. And then from there, basically the band started, really. I created a MySpace for the band at the airport on my way home. So they had like an internet thing where you could go online. So I created a MySpace. And originally it was just supposed to be fun, but we played the first song or wrote the first song, we shared it, people liked it. And from there, it just kind of carried on, really. So yeah, that's how Basement Torch Killing started. So how would I describe the sound of Basement Torch Killings? Well, I guess really we are just an old school death grind band, really. I think a lot of people, because of our image, think that we're a kind of a Dupar type gore grind band, and we're not. Visually, I guess we fit with that scene, but sound-wise, not so much. I guess if we're looking for bands for comparisons, I don't know, maybe Exhumed, Impaled. It's kind of fast-paced, punky, death grind, really. Solos, two vocals. Yeah, that's basically how it sounds, exactly as you'd expect. So what's the appeal for death metal and grindcore for me? I just like it. I don't know what else to say. I started off listening to thrash like a lot of people, so Metallica, bands like that, Slayer. Then slowly I got into Possessed and Carcass, Morbid Angel, and it just kind of grew from there. I like the scene. I like the intensity. It's quite skilled musically. It's fast paced. The solos, etc. Just musicianship. It's just something that kind of resonates within me, and I've been part of the scene for a long time, and yeah, I guess that's it. That's it. So yeah, the third, there's something about Beryl was kind of brutal. It was the first album we did where I was basically the main songwriter. before we'd had a lineup change just before that, about a year previously. So whereas before everything was done kind of 50-50 between me and our other guitarist, this time I did the majority of the writing, got into the studio and then worked with our drummer to flesh out the arrangements and things. So yeah, that was the first album we did that way. It wasn't intentionally anything really, it was just, it came out the way it came out. I think it was the first time we kind of had more thrashy elements in places. But yeah, it came out. It came out the way it did. For our next album, which we're just shortly releasing, although I guess by the time this is put online, we probably will have released it, Lessons in Murder. I think it's more of the same. We've got a couple of songs that are a little bit shorter. We've tried to make things more concise. So not having riffs go forever and a day. I think there's a lot more variation on the record. It's still all fast, but we really worked hard to not have songs at the same tempo. I think with Beryl, we didn't use click tracks. We just played how songs came naturally. One of the downsides with that is we just kind of, it's all very one-paced. I think it's just a sort of natural speed for us to play, and so it just sort of blends into one really. With this album, we tried to make sure that all the songs are at different tempos, and that we don't have two songs sitting side by side at the same tempo or near to the same tempo. So it gives it sort of this ebb and flow, and changes in speed and pace. It's still really brutal. Yeah, check it out. So when are we planning to release the next full length? Well, I kind of just touched that really. So we're releasing our new album, Lessons in Murder, at the end of May. It's going to be released by Bizarre Leprous Productions in the Czech Republic, who we're super pleased to be partnering with. I've got a lot of time for their label. I like a lot of the bands, and I'm really proud to be part of it. I think with this album, it's the first one we've done which is kind of more of a concept album, in that it's basically created as a guide, an audio guide for wannabe serial killers, kind of like Murder for Dummies or something like that. So yeah, it's out shortly, and as I said earlier, it probably will be out by the time this is there. It's cool. It's got 11 songs. Each one is kind of an instruction of how to do a certain part of serial killing. So we have like victim selection, how to dispose of bodies, creating your own murder kit from the local DIY store. So how to go to the DIY store and buy things to help you murder and stuff like that. So yeah, it was fun. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but yeah, check it out. So composition, I guess the main thing that takes the time is the riffs for the song and the structures. Everything has to fit together just so. And I spend a lot of time on the arrangements, changing things. Typically the way that we write is I kind of sit and come up with the ideas or concepts of the songs, kind of record some riffs at home, put some drum beats to it, etc., etc., and then I'll take those, send them to our drummer, and then our drummer and I will go into the studio, and then we will work on them to make them better, really, or worse sometimes. But yeah, so that's kind of that's what takes us the longest. The solos, I improvise; they don't take too long. I think for this, for this album, I think what I did was I recorded like a solo an evening or something. So I recorded all the basics of the tracks, and I just sort of improvised at home and did solos each night. And then the last thing we do is write the lyrics, and then obviously we go and record. We don't really practice the songs to a standard where we can gig them before we record. I sort of touched on earlier about how originally the band was kind of started whilst we were in Sweden, whilst I was visiting a friend in Sweden. So we did like this internet project for the first couple of albums. So we've carried that on. So typically we write, we kind of get the songs into shape, then we record them, and then once they're recorded, we learn them back so that we can then start playing them live. So what do I think is the greatest achievement of the band so far? Well, I guess I touched on just now that we've been signed to Bizarre Leprous. I think that's a really cult and good label, so that's a major achievement for us. It was certainly something that I was always wanted to be part of, so that, and I guess the other thing I think is playing Obscene Extreme Festival. We played in 2018, 2019, 2019, I think. 18. But anyway, we played a couple of years ago. That was very cool. We played 2 a.m. in the morning, lots of people there, really cool shows. So to be part of such an iconic festival, to play that was very special indeed. And then I guess the other big achievement is our new album, but everyone always says that when they're promoting a new album. But again, I'm really proud of it. So what kind of response have we had with our music? It's been positive. I mean, the status of the band keeps increasing. We get to play further and further afield. We've played most countries in Europe now. We're playing larger festivals, so I think it's positive. I think we have a very intense live show. I think when people see us live, I think they're a little bit taken aback. There's a sort of the visual element with the characters and all the theatrics and stuff and the blood, etc., etc. But also we work very hard at our live show to make sure that we're as slick and as tight as possible. So I think that people are impressed with that. Album-wise, again, reviews have been typically good, where people seem to like the stuff. I just think that this new album is kind of a definite progression for us. I think in many ways for me, Basement Torture Killings has been split into two. We did the first two albums with the original lineup. They were very cool. Then that lineup fell apart and we moved on to having Beryl and the lineup that we have currently. And I think with there's something about Beryl, it was about finding our feet again. It was kind of a new band in essence. Well, it was, apart from me. So I think that was kind of a learning experience. Whereas this new album is much more focused and it's cool. It's cool. Who would I say are my biggest influences as a musician or as a band? So I guess for me, the biggest influence has been Metallica. I still love Metallica. Excuse me. I think they're, they're legends, aren't they? I think outside of that, in extreme music, massive fan of Carcass. I remember getting Heartwork back in 90 something, 94, 93, I guess. Was really blown away with that. Since then, I've kind of got into Exhumed, Impaled, as I mentioned earlier, General Surgery, Hemorrhage, all those kind of bands, really. You know, we joke that I like bands that are like a shit version of Carcass. We don't mean that derogatory. We just mean as a They've taken the Carcass blueprint and then they've just made it better. And I like that. I like that fast, intense stuff. Outside of metal, I like Nick Cave a lot, PJ Harvey. There's a indie band here called Suede. I'm not quite sure I like them, but I've always liked them too. So yeah, a lot of stuff. What are my top 5 extreme metal albums? Now, this has kind of caught me out because I'm just reading these as I go, so I haven't pre-checked them. So that's always a hard one. I guess top 5, I would say Principles of Evil Made Flesh by Cradle of Filth. I would say Necroticism by Carcass. What else? Domination by Morbid Angel. Which extreme metal? Once Upon a Cross by Deicide and Slaughter Cult from Exhumed. Yeah, I think that for now. So what are my thoughts about elitism in metal and how has it affected you as a metal musician? Well, that's an interesting subject. I don't know. I kind of stay away from that really. I think what happens is you just get older and your views just get narrower and narrower, and you just know what you like at that point. For me, I've always just wanted to carve my own identity. I think the black metal scene has a lot of that. I think it's less so outside, especially, you know, death metal and grindcore. I think people are generally pretty cool and just get on with each other. I just play what I play. I write what I write. Ultimately, if I like it, then that's good enough. Yeah, I think that's enough on that subject. What's next? Am I involved in any other side projects from Basement Torch Killings? So there's a couple of projects I'm kind of looking at doing, but we'll see what happens. We're in lockdown at the moment with the virus, so I'm writing quite a lot of music. I may be doing a thrash band with the original singer and guitarist from Basement Torch Killings. So hopefully that will be out. We'll do something there. And I'm also looking at doing something kind of dark and slammy, techie with some other friends. Actually, the guy that recorded Lessons in Murder, the Chaz, who did the engineering and mixing. So yeah, there's those. Apart from that, I also play in a band called Thus Defiled. It's a black metal band, although we're on hiatus at the moment. And for the others in the band, our new bassist and drummer play in a band called Anakim. They're kind of technical death metal. Very cool. You should check them out. And I think that's it at the moment for other bands. How is the underground metal scene in England? It's cool. It's cool. We have some, I guess it's the UK really, rather than England. There's a kind of hardcore group of bands that you would probably come across. So Desecration, Crepitation, every other band in Inshun, Scordatura, Party Cannon, Fetal Juice, Stranglewire. They're really cool bands. Sodomized Cadaver do a lot of stuff as well. Copper Polices, Twitch to Death Nerve. There's a lot of good bands here. Overall, it's pretty cool. We put on shows together. Everyone gets along. If there's one criticism, I guess, for the scene is it's overly saturated. We have a lot of shows here. So for example, in London, you could have 2, 3, maybe 4 metal shows in one night. That can cause problems with attendances. And I think there is so much choice that often you don't necessarily get the big crowds you could do if it was a little less. But overall, it's a cool scene. We all help each other out, and most of us are friends, so it's good. It's good. What would you like to say to folks visiting your channel? Well, firstly, thanks for checking out this interview and checking out the channel. It's great that you're doing so much to help with the scene and help promoting bands. It's an awesome thing. I guess the other thing to say is apologies that this has taken so long to get to you. It's not been intentional, it's just one of those things. I'm sorry about that, but I hope people check this out and they check out our video and new album. And then lastly, would we be interested in touring and performing in Sri Lanka? Fuck yeah, of course. We love to play live. We love to play live. So we have played many shows in Europe, obviously in the UK too, but many shows outside. It's cool. It's very cool. But we would love to come to Southeast Asia. Why not? So if you can hook us up with some promoters, definitely. Thanks very much for the interview. Apologies once again, it's taken so long. And yeah, check out our new album, Lessons in Murder. Cheers.